I'm sitting at our small, cluttered kitchen table, stirring my tea absent-mindedly. It's been a rough day, or maybe it's just the pregnancy hormones making everything feel more intense. My name is Nora. I'm 32, working as a sports manager for a top American football team, and now, expecting. You'd think that'd be enough excitement for one lifetime, but no, there's always family drama to spice things up. Across from me is my husband, Mark. He's the kind of guy who you know you can always count on. Kind, understanding, and, let's be honest, easy on the eyes too. He's been my rock through everything, especially now, with the baby on the way. Nora, you okay? Mark asks, his brow furrowed with concern. His voice always has a way of sounding like a warm hug. Yeah, just thinking, I reply, trying to smile. Mark reaches across the table, taking my hand in his. Whatever it is, we'll handle it together, okay? I nod, feeling a little better. But the thought of facing his family again makes my stomach twist. They've never been my biggest fans. Mark's mom, Mrs. Thompson, is the type who smiles to your face but whispers behind your back. And then there's his sister, Laura. She's 2 years older than me, married with 2 kids, and she's made it her personal mission to make my life miserable. It started off as small jabs here and there, but ever since we announced the pregnancy, she's been relentless. Just yesterday, at the family dinner, she started again. So, still hanging around those football players all day? Laura asked, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. Mark jumped in before I could respond. Laura, cut it out. You know she's professional. Laura just laughed, a harsh, grating sound. I'm just saying, it's a lot of temptation, isn't it? All those fit, young guys? I clenched my fists under the table, trying to keep my cool. It's the same every time. She hints, insinuates things about me and my job, about my loyalty to Mark. It's exhausting. Mark's mom, sitting beside Laura, always chimes in with her own subtle digs. Well, we just want what's best for Mark, don't we? I remember looking at Mark, feeling a mix of gratitude and frustration. He's always there, standing up for me, but his family's words still sting. It's like they're waiting for me to slip up, to prove their point. Hey, Nora, Mark says, snapping me back to the present. You know none of what they say is true, right? I trust you, completely. I nod again, squeezing his hand. I know, it's just hard sometimes. Mark's face hardens slightly. I'll talk to them again. This needs to stop. I lean back in my chair, feeling the weight of the situation. Our little family is growing, and I can't help but wonder how this baby will change things. Will it bring us closer together, or drive a deeper wedge between us and his family? The day at work was long and tiring, typical for a Monday. My mind kept drifting to the family drama, making it hard to focus on the reports piling up on my desk. I let out a long sigh as I finally pushed back my chair, ready to head home. As I walked through the parking lot, I noticed my car had a flat tire. Great, just what I needed, I muttered to myself. Nora, need some help? It was Jake, one of the coaches. He's a giant of a man, always ready to lend a hand. I shook my head. No, I'll just call a tow truck. Thanks, though. Jake raised an eyebrow. That'll take ages. Let me give you a ride. It's no trouble. I hesitated, thinking about Laura's snide remarks. But it was getting late, and I really just wanted to get home. Okay, sure, thanks, Jake. The ride was quiet, mostly. Jake asked about the baby, and I found myself talking about the nursery we were setting up. He dropped me off with a friendly wave, and that was that. Or so I thought. The next day, things took a turn. I was in the kitchen, pouring myself some tea, when Mark walked in, his face like a thundercloud. "We need to talk," he said, his voice tight. I felt my stomach drop. "What's wrong?" He held up his phone, showing me a video. It was me, getting into Jake's car. The angle was creepy, like someone was spying. "My sister sent me this," Mark said, his jaw clenched. "She's saying stuff about you and Jake." I felt a flash of anger. "Are you kidding me? He just gave me a ride because of a flat tire." Mark ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "I know, I believe you, but she's stirring things up, telling me to open my eyes and nonsense like that." I slammed my cup down, tea splashing over the rim. "This is ridiculous. She's been after me since day one, and now this?" Mark came over, putting his arms around me. I know. She's out of line. I'll handle it." I leaned into his embrace, feeling a mix of anger and helplessness. "Why can't she just leave us alone?" Mark sighed. "I wish I knew, but I'm on your side, always." I nodded, trying to calm down. "Thanks. I hate that she's doing this." We stood there for a moment, in the quiet of our kitchen, united against an unseen enemy. It was comforting, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the start of something bigger, something uglier. I pulled back, looking up at Mark. "We can't let her get to us. This is our family, our life. She's not going to ruin it." Mark nodded, determination in his eyes. "Absolutely, we're in this together." The days following the video incident felt like walking on eggshells. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart skipped a beat, half expecting another twisted message from Laura. It was like living under a microscope, with every move I made potentially being watched and judged. One evening, Mark and I were sitting in the living room, each lost in our own thoughts, when my phone pinged with a message. I glanced at it, and my heart sank. Another text from Laura, no doubt. "Anything important?" Mark asked, noticing my expression. "Just a reminder about the team's meeting tomorrow," I lied, not wanting to stir up more drama. I couldn't tell him that Laura had sent a snarky message about being careful around the players. Mark nodded, but I could tell he was still tense. "You know, maybe you should talk to your boss about Laura's behavior. It's getting out of hand." I shook my head. "And say what? That my sister-in-law is spreading rumors?" "That'll sound great." Mark frowned. "Well, something needs to be done. This can't go on." I sighed, feeling the weight of the situation. "I know, but what can we do? It's her word against mine." There was a silence, filled with unspoken worries and frustrations. Then, Mark stood up abruptly. "I'm going for a walk, need to clear my head." I watched him go, feeling a mix of guilt and helplessness. This whole situation was putting a strain on us, and I hated it. The next day at work, I tried to focus, but Laura's words echoed in my mind, making it hard to concentrate. During lunch, I sat alone, picking at my food, when my colleague, Lisa, sat down next to me. "Nora, you've been quiet lately. Everything okay?" Lisa asked, her brow furrowed in concern. I forced a smile. "Yeah, just a lot on my mind." Lisa leaned in, her voice low. "Is it about that video?" I heard rumors. I felt a surge of anger and embarrassment. Who's spreading this nonsense? Lisa shrugged. I don't know, but it's around. You know how people talk. I put my fork down, my appetite gone. Great, just what I needed. Lisa put a reassuring hand on mine. Hey, we know you. Don't let idle gossip get to you. I nodded, but her words did little to ease my mind. The rumors, Laura's relentless jabs, it was all starting to take a toll on me. When I got home that day, Mark was already there, looking serious. We need to talk about Laura. I hung up my coat, bracing myself. What now? Mark hesitated. I think we should confront her, together. Show her we're united. I sighed, feeling a knot in my stomach. And then what? She's not going to stop, Mark. This is like a game to her. Mark's jaw tightened. Well, we can't just let her walk all over us. We have to stand up to her. I nodded, knowing he was right, but dreading the confrontation. Facing Laura meant opening ourselves up to more attacks, more scrutiny. But maybe Mark was right. Maybe standing up to her was the only way to end this. Okay, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. Let's do it. Let's confront her. Mark reached out, taking my hand. We're in this together, remember? I squeezed his hand, drawing strength from his support. Together, I echoed, knowing that whatever lay ahead, we'd face it side by side. The day of our son's celebration was a mix of joy and underlying tension. The house was filled with the laughter of friends and the coos of family members over our little bundle of joy. I tried to soak in the happiness, but part of me was on edge, waiting for the inevitable drama to unfold. As guests arrived with gifts and warm wishes, I noticed Laura walking in, a smirk playing on her lips. She held a small, neatly wrapped package, her eyes locked on mine. I felt Mark tense up beside me. Let's just get through this, I whispered to him, squeezing his hand. He nodded, giving me a reassuring smile. We've got this. The party went smoothly for a while, everyone cooing over the baby and enjoying the spread of food. Then came the time for opening gifts. My heart pounded as Laura stepped forward, her gift in hand. Here's something special from me, she said, handing me the package with a flourish. I unwrapped it, my hands shaking slightly. Inside was a certificate for a DNA paternity test from a well-known clinic. The room fell silent, the air thick with tension. Mark's face turned red with anger. What the hell, Laura? Laura shrugged, her smirk widening. Just a little family joke, if you've got nothing to hide. I felt a surge of anger and humiliation. Standing up, I faced her, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. This isn't a joke, it's an insult. The guests shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting between us. Mark stood up, his voice firm. You need to leave, now. Laura laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the room. Oh, come on, Nora. Can't you take a joke? I held the certificate up, my decision made. Fine, we'll take your joke. We'll do the test, and then everyone will see how wrong you are. There were murmurs of surprise and approval from some of the guests. Laura's smile faltered, but she quickly regained her composure. Suit yourself, she said, turning on her heel and walking out. The rest of the party passed in a blur. Friends and family tried to be supportive, but the joy of the occasion had been tainted. Later, as Mark and I put the baby to bed, he wrapped his arms around me. I'm sorry, Nora. I never thought she'd go this far. I leaned back against him, feeling drained. It's not your fault, but we'll get through this. Together. Mark kissed the top of my head. Always. The next day, we went to the clinic. The whole process felt surreal, like we were characters in some twisted drama. But we did it, for our family, for our peace of mind. Sitting at the kitchen table with the DNA test results in hand, confirming Mark as the father, a mix of relief and anger coursed through me. Mark, looking over my shoulder, let out a long, heavy sigh. Well, that settles it, he said, his voice tinged with a mix of satisfaction and bitterness. I nodded, folding the paper and setting it aside. It does. But it doesn't change what she did. How she made us feel. Mark sat down beside me, his expression hardening. We can't let her get away with this. She's crossed a line. I looked at him, my mind racing with thoughts. I have an idea. It's a bit, well, it's not exactly nice. Mark raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. I took a deep breath. Her birthday is coming up. What if we give her a taste of her own medicine? A DNA test for her family? Mark's eyes widened. Are you serious? Dead serious, I replied, feeling a surge of determination. She needs to understand how it feels. Mark considered it for a moment, then nodded slowly. All right, if that's what you think is best. But are you prepared for the fallout? I shrugged. After everything she's done? Yes, I am. The next few weeks passed in a blur of planning and anticipation. Mark was supportive, though I could tell he was worried about how far this might go. But I was resolute. Laura had to learn her lesson. Finally, Laura's birthday arrived. We were at her house, a crowd of family and friends gathered to celebrate. I could feel the weight of the gift in my purse, a small box wrapped in bright paper. As we all gathered around for the gift giving, my heart pounded in my chest. Laura opened gifts from others, laughing and thanking them. Then it was our turn. I handed her the gift. Happy birthday, Laura. She tore open the paper, her smile faltering as she saw what was inside. A DNA test kit, just like the one she had given us. Her smile vanished, replaced by a look of shock and anger. What is this? Some kind of joke, Nora? No joke, I said, my voice firm. Just returning the favor. The room fell silent, everyone looking at us. Laura's face turned red, then white. This is sick, she hissed. You're sick. I met her gaze, unflinching. Now you know how it feels. Mark put a hand on my shoulder, a silent show of support. Laura looked around, her expression one of betrayal and humiliation. This isn't over, she spat, before storming off. As we left the party, Mark squeezed my hand. Are you okay? I nodded, feeling a strange mix of triumph and unease. I'm fine. It's just, I never thought I'd be capable of something like this. Mark pulled me into a hug. She pushed us to this. Remember that. The aftermath of Laura's birthday party felt like the calm before a storm. Mark and I were at home, bracing ourselves for what was to come. You think she'll actually do the test? Mark asked, his voice laced with concern. I shrugged, stirring my coffee absent-mindedly. I don't know, but I hope she realizes how her actions hurt others. It wasn't long before we got our answer. A few days later, Mark's phone buzzed with a message. He read it, his expression turning grim. "Laura did the test," he said, handing me the phone. The message was short and to the point, with a picture of the DNA test results attached. My heart skipped a beat as I looked at the results. They revealed that her husband was not the biological father of her children. Mark and I exchanged a look, a mix of shock and disbelief in our eyes. I didn't expect this," he stammered. I felt a knot in my stomach. Neither did I. The air in our living room was thick with tension, the kind you could cut with a knife. Laura stormed in, her face twisted in fury, with Mrs. Thompson, Mark's mom, in tow. Their unexpected arrival was like a storm breaking the uneasy calm that had settled in our house. "What the hell do you think you were doing with that DNA test?" Laura spat, her eyes blazing with anger. I stood my ground, feeling a surge of defiance. Exposing the truth, apparently, something you should have thought about before spreading lies about me. Mrs. Thompson chimed in, her voice sharp. "You've gone too far. This family doesn't need your kind of drama." I narrowed my eyes, my patience wearing thin. My kind of drama? Laura's been making my life hell since the day I married Mark. I just gave her a taste of her own medicine. Laura's face turned a shade redder. "You're a homewrecker, Nora, that's what you are." Before I could retort, the front door swung open, and in walked Tom, Laura's husband. He looked like a man on the edge, his eyes darting between us. "I can't believe you two. And my wife, my kids." His voice broke. I locked eyes with Laura, who was now visibly shaking. "You want to tell him, or should I?" Laura stammered, but no words came out. I turned to the TV and played the ace up my sleeve, a video from the stadium security. It showed Laura, clear as day, kissing an unknown man in the stands. Tom's face drained of color as he watched. That's my best friend," he whispered, disbelief etched on his face. Laura started to sob, her facade crumbling. "Tom, it's not what it looks like." But Tom wasn't listening. He turned to me, his expression a mix of gratitude and pain. "Thank you. I needed to see this." I shrugged, feeling a cold satisfaction. "Don't thank me. Thank Laura for her endless meddling." Mrs. Thompson stood there, speechless, her earlier reproach forgotten. The room was silent except for Laura's crying. Tom turned and walked out, his steps heavy with the weight of betrayal. Laura ran after him, her pleas falling on deaf ears. Mrs. Thompson followed them out in silence. As the door closed behind them, Mark wrapped his arms around me. "You okay?" I leaned into his embrace, feeling a complex mix of relief and regret. "Yeah, it's finally over." The dust had settled in the wake of the scandal, leaving a silence that was both uneasy and reflective. Mark and I sat on our back porch, the evening air cool and comforting. Our son slept peacefully inside, oblivious to the turmoil that had recently engulfed our lives. Mark broke the silence, his voice tinged with a mix of sadness and resolve. "I can't believe it's come to this. My sister, Tom's best friend, my family, all torn apart." I looked out into the fading light, feeling a weight in my chest. "I know. Sometimes the truth hurts, Mark. It's not pretty, but it's necessary. Your sister's actions, her lies, they were like a poison in our family." Mark nodded slowly. "I know. It's just hard to see it all fall apart." I reached out, taking his hand. "We can rebuild, Mark. Not the same as before, maybe, but something stronger, something real." He squeezed my hand, a small smile breaking through his troubled expression. With you, I believe we can. We've weathered the storm together. We sat in silence for a moment, each lost in our own thoughts. Then Mark spoke up, his voice more determined. We need to start fresh, you, me, our son. We'll set new boundaries with my family. It's time to put our little family first. I nodded, feeling a sense of purpose amidst the chaos. I agree. It's time to move forward on our terms. As we stood up to go inside, Mark paused, looking at me with a newfound appreciation. You know, through all of this, you've been my rock. I can't thank you enough for standing by me. I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. Always, Mark. We're a team, remember? We walked back into the house, the light spilling out onto the porch, a beacon in the darkness. Inside, our son slept peacefully, a reminder of the love and hope that still remained. I closed my eyes, feeling Mark's steady breathing beside me. Tomorrow was a new day, a new beginning. And we were ready for it.